Hello everyone, and welcome to FunFTC's annual Robot in 30 Hours and Quick Build Rankings video. Teams from all around the world created early-stage robots to play the DECODE game and help showcase capabilities and inspire other teams. In this video, we took the top 15 teams we could find that created a Robot in 30 Hours, Robot in 3 Days, or a Quick Build video. I'm Abbas, and joined today with me are Bianca and Matej, and we'll rank each team out of a total of 20 points. Every team worked hard to inspire and document their progress, and it was tough to leave a few teams out. Those shown on the screen now during the intro are our honorable mentions. Also, to be considered, teams had to have a video within the deadline of our recording so that we could review their robot. We also excluded rankings for supplier starter bots, but did include robots that were made by FTC teams who may have been using sponsored parts. There are 3 categories that each team is able to earn points in: practicality, performance, and wow factor. Practicality is up to 5 points, and it's all about if other teams can take this and build something better or learn from the robot in the video. Also, it factors in whether the team documented their build process. Performance is ranked up to 10 points, and it's all about how well the robot demonstrated their performance on the field. Finally, wow factor is up to 5 points, and it's just about how cool and inspiring the robot is. Tiebreakers for rank were done in order of practicality, performance, and then wow factor. With that, let's dive into our DECODE Top 15 Robot in 30 Hours and Quick Build Rankings.
This video on fun is brought to you by viewers like you and also in partnership with the following. Take on the DECODE season with Studica Robotics, featuring their FTC starter bot, new 6mm hex shaft and motor options, and updated bevel gears. FTC teams can receive a 25% discount and apply for grants at studica.com/robots. True competitors know that every second counts. That's why Kettering University challenges you to dive in right away as a first-year student. Participating in robotics programs helps Kettering students secure a valuable co-op. Whatever your interests, Kettering gives you more space to work faster and win faster. Learn more at kettering.edu/first.
Alright, starting off in 15th place is Team FE203 from Ohio. They scored a total of 10.75 points with 2.75 in practicality, 5.5 in performance, and 2.5 in wow factor. The main thing that stood out to me with Team FE203 was a very consistent and what also looks to be a far launch zone shooter. I think it sets a great threshold for what we're looking at with performance on these Robot in 3-day builds, and I also really like the fact that they showed their gate opening mechanism, because it's something that a lot of teams just assume, but the fact that they're showing it is something a lot of teams watching can learn from.
Yeah, I just love how consistent they are shooting from the far launch zone, and I think that the transfer from that ramp is just so effective and so consistent throughout the game.
In 14th place, it's the Night Owls from Illinois, wise in both their strategy and their robot design. They published a reveal video showcasing a strong first prototype, demonstrating consistent intaking and launching of artifacts using their makeshift field elements. The robot is impressively reliable, even with an incredibly fast flywheel speed at 6,000 RPM on one of the larger gecko wheel sizes. Despite having a cardboard hood, everything looks very well tuned and carefully set up. A standout feature of this robot, one we won't see much of today, is a side intake. Instead of pulling artifacts in from the top, 2 adjacent side wheels gently capture the balls, guiding them further inward via the massive surgical intake. This staged approach helps ensure a consistent transfer into their flywheel. With a solid autonomous, this robot shows a lot of promise. While it may still be a first prototype, there's clear potential for it here, and with a few refinements, the Night Owls could be very competitive on the field.
Yeah, I completely agree with Bianca. My favorite thing about it is the intake, because those tubes have so much reach, and then the wheels on the bottom just collect them inside and transfer to the outtake.
In 13th, we have Team 19049 High Five Robotics from Romania. They scored 4 points in practicality, another 4 in performance, and 3 in wow factor for a total of 11. The highlight of this design is their sorting spinner or spindexer at the top of their robot. I think it's a great example for teams to look at to understand the size of this mechanism should they try to implement it on their robot. Additionally, we can see that they powered the spindexer with a servo, which is another useful thing for teams to see when deciding between a motor or servo-based system for this mechanism. Beyond this, the robot has a consistent shooter with what I would call a medium angle. It's not super steep, but not too shallow because of that low launch height. Teams will definitely need to think about how to integrate an intake into this design, but it's a great proof of concept from High Five Robotics, and I really like how there's a lot of match videos that we can see from the Romania Kickathon.
Yeah, there's some really thoughtful consideration here of the design of their indexer mechanism, and I particularly like how it's horizontally mounted on the top of the robot instead of being sort of on the side. Definitely a very unique design.
In rank 12, we have Team AUSFTC 2025 14349 from Wollongong, Australia. They scored a 2.75 in practicality, a 5.5 in performance, and a 3 in wow factor. I just love how fast they can transfer the artifacts from the intake to the outtake. Also, they can just store up to 3 balls inside, so for the auto it's very nice. But one of the things I would have liked to see is some sort of mixer that can just predict the motifs and switch between the artifacts in auto.
Yeah, I think they had a really great robot. I like the shooter consistency and especially showing it shooting from pretty far away in that launch zone. So overall, great robot. Can't wait to see how it progresses throughout the season.
Sliding into 11th place, and yes, the number 11 does happen to be a palindromic prime, Team 25538 ARRA from Romania scored 3.25 in practicality, 5.5 for performance, and 2.75 in wow factor, totaling a commendable 11.5 points. This robot has a visually striking overall construction, featuring a custom blue and black inverted shooter where the initial wheel sits above the loaded artifact. This mechanism is particularly sort of intriguing as it controls the acceleration of the balls throughout the hood quite precisely. The first powered wheel is upgeared from the motor to 4000 RPM, while the second larger wheel is at 7000. This is all complemented by their indexer. I like the thought behind this dual wheel setup. It has the benefit of applying backspin to the artifacts, giving them a little bit more control while in the air. That being said, one weakness of this particular prototype is the lack of a system to intake directly from the field tiles, currently relying on the human player for artifacts, something they can improve on in future iterations to make the robot even more versatile. It's clear that a lot of attention was paid to the shooter and indexing systems, making it a clever and reliable design that they can further experiment with.
Yeah, I completely agree with Bianca. I feel like an intake system would be a viable solution for their human player and artifact scoring problems. And going through the season, this would be a great robot if they just continue iterating with that intake.
Starting off our top 10 is Team 22471 techATTACK from California. They scored a 3.5 in practicality, 6 in performance, and 2.5 in wow factor for a total of 12 points. They feature a same-side shooter at intake with 2 spinning foam wheels on that intake. This intake is definitely the highlight of the design as it's super fast and can even collect artifacts while running full speed into them, something I think a lot of teams will need to look at and adapt for their own designs. The hooded shooter is a sound design, but we didn't get to see any shots into the goal. I think teams should really pay attention to how much the intake wheels are expanding or compressing during the intake as compared to how much the shooter is expanding and compressing during the shot cycle. Overall, great job from techATTACK in 3 days, and I can't wait to see what they do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, this is a great robot design, and I just noticed that there's some light color scheming on this robot too, using red as the filament color for the 3D printed components as well as sort of the red tape in some places definitely elevates it from the look of some other Ri30H designs we've seen.
In rank 9, we have 11047 SWYFT from Taichung, Taiwan. They scored a 2.25 in practicality, a 5.75 in performance, and a 4.25 in wow factor. I feel like this is one of, if not the most innovative robots I've seen yet. I feel like a lot of teams can get inspiration from that catapult-like outtake. Also, practicality-wise, only being able to hold one artifact at once is not optimal, but I think they can improve the robot so much with maybe implementing an intake in the front. The best thing about this robot is the park, which is so cool and unique, and I feel like a lot of teams can implement this idea of climbing on top of another robot, and it would be so cool to see this going forward with the season.
Yeah, as you said, Matej, I mean, I said, wow, when I saw that climb at the end. I really hope we see some teams implement this throughout the season.
Making their mark in 8th place, we have the second of 2 robots by Team 26691 Thunderheads out of Middleton, Wisconsin. They scored 3.25 in practicality with an overall very solid looking design, 5 in performance with a good intaking range, and a 4 in wow factor, a very balanced sort of overall design. One immediate thing that stands out to me is the sheer abundance and range of different compliant parts making up their transfer system up an angled ramp. Starting with surgical tubing, a fairly common initial intake type, and ending with high-speed gecko wheel flywheels, the whole system ensures artifacts are indexed reliably and prevents misfires. By operating each stage separately, the robot maintains precise control throughout the whole transfer. Thunderheads also noted a common issue with wide intakes. Sometimes robots could end up picking up 2 artifacts at once at kind of awkward angle. Their quick but clever solution was to mount 2 makeshift guides on either side of the intake, effectively filtering the artifacts so only one enters at a time. Overall, this design demonstrates thoughtful consideration for consistency and reliability, making it a great reference for teams looking to balance speed with control in their intake and transfers.
Yeah, the concept of this robot is just so clever, but I think a 3-ball version of it would be so cool to see how it would be implemented.
In 7th, we have Team 6547 Colbalt Colts from Kansas. They scored a 4 in practicality, 5.25 in performance, and a 3 in wow factor. The main subsystem I think teams can look at on this robot is the intake. It seems like those 2 vertically spaced wheels are very quick to pick up samples, as can be seen with this video. Additionally, I think it's really interesting how Colbalt Colts went with such a steep shooter angle. It seems to be working well for them so far, and may also be very critical for those far launch zone shots. I like the opposite side shooter and intake, and I think teams will definitely need to consider whether they want a same side design like a few of the previous robots, or an opposite side design like Colbalt Colts has here for potentially faster cycles. Teams can definitely take a lot from this design, but will need to speed up the transfer for a top competitive robot. Overall, a great build, and I can't wait to see them progress over the season.
I totally agree here that the integration of their subsystems is really effective. Taking the artifacts to the opposite side rather than the same side is definitely one of this robot's highlights.
In rank 6, we've got 24557 UNIMATE from São Jose, Brazil. They scored a 4.25 in practicality, a 6.5 in performance, and a 3.5 in wow factor. I just love how simple yet effective this robot is. I like how their intake works very well and it can hold up to 3 artifacts at once, and they just transfer them to the outtake extremely fast. As you can see, the green wheel is a pretty clever solution to the gate, as it just holds up the artifacts until they want to score them. And lastly, one of the things I liked most about this robot is how they managed to keep their center of mass very low, so maybe in the future they would have a pretty fast robot and a pretty great robot to compete in further competitions.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of little clever mechanisms on this robot, especially that transfer wheel, as you said. And also I think it's a really great demonstration to teams about how you don't need to have a 15-inch long or 15-inch wide robot, but rather you can stack the balls in different ways in order to pack them very efficiently and have a small form factor.
Kicking off our top 5, in 5th place, we have another team from Wisconsin, 13201 Team Hazmat. This robot put up excellent scores. 4.25 in practicality, 7.25 in performance, and a 3.75 wow factor, for a total of 15.25 points. One thing that really stood out to me on this robot was the highly customizable launching trajectory it can achieve. With a servo that adjusts the angle of their double flywheel, and software that can dynamically vary their wheel velocity, this robot can score from nearly anywhere in the launch zone, a huge advantage for early gameplay. Team Hazmat also showcased a solid autonomous routine that makes good use of their mechanisms, helping them consistently grab those quick, early points of the match. And speaking of mechanisms, their pass-through system is another highlight. This robot can smoothly transfer balls through the whole frame without any major jams or hesitation like you might see in these sort of early robots, which will be really useful for having fast and effortless cycles later on. I really like in this design how well everything ties together. Every system feels sort of purposeful and cleanly integrated, and that cohesion makes the robot a strong early prototype. It's nothing flashy, but it's definitely effective, and definitely an incredibly strong start to our top 5.
Yeah, I personally think a lot of teams can implement that bolt transfer and the cool round pitching launcher, which has a very cool and innovative design.
Number 4 goes to the robot Maw from the channel Robot in 30 Hours. We gave them a 4 in practicality, 6.5 in performance, and a 5 in wow factor. The only team tonight that will receive a full 5 points in the wow factor. Obviously, the highlight of this design is the triple catapult. I was super impressed by the consistency they were able to have with it, and I really think one big strength of the design is that it's very easy to load from the human player. Additionally, one part of the robot that really bumped up their performance score for me was the indexing mechanism that they had built into the launcher. You can see that there's a small servo arm that pushes artifacts to the left or right so that they can always store them correctly. This could also be used very well for launching the motifs in the right order, assuming they can get the landing also to work out well. But I see a few teams this year trying their hand at this design and maybe even using it as motivation for a triple shooter, which would just be insane.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the biggest highlights of this design is that it can score 3 artifacts at once. It could totally be an advantageous feature when considering strategy later on in the season, as it might not be something that all teams could do.
In rank 3 we have 16 out 10 Astra Machina from Omaha, Nebraska. They scored a 4 in practicality, a 7.75 in performance, and a 3.75 in wow factor. I just like the double wood wheel shafts for the intake that just instantly collect the artifacts and transfer them to the flywheel in the back. It is a great first robot to start the season off with, and it's made from accessible materials with a straightforward design. The only thing I find difficult with this design going on with the season is implementing a storage for the artifacts. Overall, this is a very consistent robot with a pretty quick chassis and a very consistent launcher.
Yeah, they were the second highest performance score we're going to give out for the night, and I think a big part of that was the fact that they posted multiple match videos, so you could really understand what their game strategy and field play would look like in actual matches.
Yeah, this appears to be a very reliable overall design. I mean, my reaction when I first saw their reveal video was, whoa, that looks like a competition-ready robot already. Very impressive work for such a short-term build. Now for our top 2. Claiming second with one of the most unique designs we've seen so far, it's a collaborative design. It was Team 26949, the Royal Society of Robotics from Oklahoma, alongside goBILDA. It took the majority of the available points in all 3 categories, with a 4 in practicality, 7.5 in performance, and a wow factor of 4.25. And that score of 4.25 is very fitting indeed. The robot's main selling point is its double flywheel launching mechanism, which opens the door to some really exciting possibilities, like scoring 2 artifacts simultaneously, the obvious one, or an increased number of strategies that you can play during your matches. Most designs so far have stuck to sort of single flywheels, or maybe the occasional catapult, so it's great to see something that breaks the mold. Its on-field performance is also impressive. It can consistently launch and score artifacts, and its extra wide intake gives it a real edge by pulling in artifacts from a variety of angles, rather than having to approach them from straight on. With the construction built entirely from goBILDA components, this design is also highly practical and could be an excellent starting point for other teams, offering plenty of room to add custom manufactured upgrades.
Yeah, I think there's obviously, the huge innovation with the double shooter. I'd be really excited to see if many teams try to implement this throughout the season, and especially if they try to go for 2 shots at once or only using one for the green artifacts and the other for the purple artifacts.
In my opinion, everything about this robot screams consistency, from the double shooter design to how they can just score the motifs in auto and teleop is just such a clever solution to a complicated problem.
Taking our top spot for DECODE Robot in 30 Hours and Robot in 3 Days is ITKAN Robotics and SWYFT Robotics' Robot in 3 Days from Texas. They had almost a perfect score with 5 in practicality, 8.75 in performance, and a 4.75 wow factor for 18.5 out of 20 total points. Starting with practicality, the robot design is super clean and doesn't look MacGyvered on top of a previous season's robot, so it's really easy for other teams to understand the important parts of the designs and what decisions they made. Additionally, they provide CAD and code of the robot, so you can't get much more practical than that. Performance is obviously off the chart, showcasing super fast SWYFT Drive V2 and a really good wide intake. One thing that stands out to me about the shooter is how they're able to launch artifacts back to back so quickly. Having such a fast recovery time this early in the season is huge for teams to learn from. Finally, you have to talk about the base parking. They're one of 2 robots with clear, fully double parked capabilities, and it's so impressive to me how soon they were able to achieve it. Looking to the rest of the season, any team that can learn from this design and improve it by having the capability to store 3 artifacts and make consistent shots from the far launch zone will be competitive even at the World Championship.
Double parking in a robot built in less than a week. That's incredible. The process to brainstorm, design, and then implement this solution must have been very difficult and quite energy intensive. The execution of their double park is still a prototype, of course, but a very effective one indeed that many other teams could learn from. What an incredible way to top up our rankings.
Personally, this is my favorite robot that I've seen this season, and I think it's already on a competitive level. It's such a cool robot.
Thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought of the rankings in the comments. Who did you have higher or lower? Don't forget to subscribe to Fun here on YouTube and stay up to date on all Fun FTC videos. We have a lot of great content planned for this season, so please be sure to keep an eye out for future content.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. True competitors know that every second counts. That's why Kettering University challenges you to dive in right away as a first-year student. Participating in robotics programs helps Kettering students secure a valuable co-op. Whatever your interests, Kettering gives you more space to work faster and win faster. Learn more at kettering.edu/first. Take on the DECODE season with Studica Robotics, featuring their FTC starter bot, new 6mm hex shaft and motor options, and updated bevel gears. FTC teams can receive a 25% discount and apply for grants at studica.com/robots.